Hey YouTube, this is Bill. I've been reviewing quite a number of pieces of gear this year, 2021. So I thought I would do a wrap up and give my best system, not the priciest system, but the best system as far as battery powered for 2021. So here we go. On your center, the star of the show is the JBL Mark II, totally battery powered. Just came out this year. Very impressed. Very hi-fi sounding piece of gear. Not the loudest, but the best sounding. I want to stress that. On the left, I have the even newer Mackie Thump Go, and it is quite loud for its size. It's a light speaker, and it puts out enough dBs to keep up with the much pricier JBL Mark II. On the floor there, this is the first time I'm using a subwoofer with the Mark II. The Mark II has excellent bass, but when you couple it or pair it with an external sub, it definitely makes a difference. So this is actually the first time I'm trying it. The sub I'm using is a studio sub. It's called the KRK 10S. And for this purpose, just adding a little more thump, it's perfect. I don't need a larger subwoofer. I don't need a 12-inch. I don't need a 15. This just adds that little extra that the Mark II is missing as far as kick or thump. And unfortunately, that's the only piece that isn't battery powered. So if you want to keep the whole system battery powered, then I have an external battery source running only the subwoofer. So that's it. Let me show you the individual components in a little more detail. So for the auxiliary speaker supporting the Mark II, I'm using this new Mackie Thump Go, and it is battery powered. So people who haven't seen my previous videos are wondering, why would you need another speaker with the JBL Mark II? And the reasoning is, even though the JBL Mark II is a wonderful sounding speaker, it's still a mono column. And in this setup, the Mackie is giving the illusion of a stereo sound field. It's not stereo, they're both running mono. But the Mackie and by the way, I wouldn't be running this system so close together. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. I would have the Mackie at least maybe 15 feet to the left, subwoofer tucked close to the column. So the Mackie just adds a little touch of clarity that the JBL Mark II is missing. The Mark II has wonderful mids. It has some nice lows for a full range sound, but it needs a little EQ on the top to really add the clarity I'm looking for. So the Mackie is just a super clean speaker, and I don't really need to EQ the Mark II once I've done this. So it's just a great combination. If you don't have a Mackie, of course, you don't have to run out and get it. You can use a Bose S1 Pro. That matches up very nicely. Or a JBL Compact matches up nicely. They're all battery power speakers. Any one of those. But if you don't have any of them, then I'm going to recommend the Mackie Thump Go. And it actually is the cheapest or the least expensive at only $400 compared to the S1 Pro, which is $650, and the JBL Compact, $575. It's lightweight, under 20 pounds. It's just a great speaker. Okay. Check out my other videos if you want more information about the Mackie Thump Go. Going on to the more expensive, or the heart of the system, that's the JBL Mark II, $1,200. And like I mentioned, I'm very pleased with this. I think it's just incredibly smooth sounding, very Bose sounding. It has very smooth mids, and with this 10-inch subwoofer, or mid, whatever you want to call it. It's not actually a subwoofer, but mid-bass module. It has nice lows. It's very a full range sounding system. It is not the loudest system I've ever heard. And again, no battery system is, you're not going to find any battery system that's going to put out more close to the 120 dB that they advertise. So I think people on the web have stated they've gotten the Mark II up to about 110 on battery, but that's using a mixer. So I haven't personally used the mixer with this yet. That's going to be my next step. But I've been getting a little over, less than 105 dBs with batteries, but it's plenty loud. Once you add the Mackie, which is about 101 dB, you're getting all the sound you can possibly need, unless you are going to the next level of separate 12-inch tops and 18-inch subs. And then what we have on the bottom, the KRK, is a studio subwoofer. And the reason I chose this is I'm looking for something inexpensive. I don't want to build a huge, very expensive system. If I'm going to go that road over $3,000, I'm not going to go with the Pro 32 Sub 2 and then use an external battery source. Again, I've done a video on that. So I'm trying to keep the price down, reasonable for people who don't have any kind of system. So the KRK is $450. This is actually the older model. They have a new Mark II model out, but it's same specs. This subwoofer keeps up completely with the Mark II. It is also a 10-inch sub, but it goes up to 117 dB, so it's actually louder than the Mark II will ever be. And it has a nice, very nice low end that is added. It really makes a huge difference. And what's great about this system is the Mark II has a throughout that has a mute control, and you can mute the subwoofer instantaneously, and you can hear exactly how they sound together. And that's a really great feature to blend it. You can bring up the volume or bring it down when you A/B it from a distance. It's just a great feature. And then the last component, if you want to keep it battery powered, is again a component I've talked about on the web. It's called the Expert Power 400 from Amazon, 400 watts. And again, it runs the KRK with no problem. Adds a couple $100 more to the system though. If you don't need battery power, then you could save some money. So that's it. That's my system of 2021. I'm not going to be doing a sound demo right now because I've pretty much demoed the JBL Mark II and the Mackie Thump Go together. And the reason I'm not going to do an in-depth review with the subwoofer is I have found that making YouTube videos with my inexpensive camera that I use, which I'm holding right now, is my iPhone 13, it really doesn't show bass. It doesn't show the bass frequencies, so I kind of feel like I'm wasting my time. I mean, you can hear there's a difference, but you don't actually hear the quality, the tight bass that a subwoofer like this produces. So I'm going to skip in detailed any kind of sound demo. Couple of specs on the KRK sub. I mentioned that it goes up to 117 dB, which is all the power you need. I'm integrating it with the Mark II at about 1 o'clock, and I can't use any more power than that. It goes down to 27 hertz, which is very low, and that's the difference between a studio or a home hi-fi sub compared to a live sound sub. Live sound subs usually are tuned at 40 hertz, and that's more of a, I guess it's more of a tuning for live instruments, guitars, keyboards, drums, where your home hi-fi subs, or in this case, a studio sub, they usually go down as low as 20 hertz. But I'm not doing a home theater here with this setup, so most music doesn't go down to 20 hertz. This goes down to 27, which is plenty low. Most music doesn't go down to 27. I do want to mention another subwoofer. If I was going to buy this system today, I believe it's fairly new. It's called the RCF AYRA Pro 10. IRA Pro 10. And it's more powerful than the KRK. The KRK here is 160 watts, and the RCF is 300 watts. So that's considerable more power. It's also a 10-inch sub, and it goes down to 30 hertz, which is very similar to the KRK. and it goes up to 120 dB. Again, I don't think I need that kind of power, but it's a considerable boost in performance. 120 dB is really powerful. They're both under 40 pounds. The KRK is 35 pounds and the RCF is 39 pounds. So they're both very similar and the same price. The RCF is also $450. So if I was going to do it again, I would seriously look at the RCF. Of course, if you want to spend more money, or if you already have it, the ideal setup would be the Bose Sub 1. But that's an $800 subwoofer, so I didn't want to demonstrate that to make the system so outlandishly more expensive. But that would just be so much better and so much more kick with the Sub 1. Okay. Another reason I have chosen the Mackie Thump Go is because it has an app. And from that app, I can separately control the gain of the Mackie Thump Go, which is a great advantage. Again, how I blend it with the main speaker, the Mark II, without a mixer. Of course, if you're using a mixer, then everything else, all these pluses change. But with a mixer, then you have one more thing to plug into a power source and a lot more cables, right? But you'll have better sound with a mixer. So that's why I really am pushing the Mackie Thump Go. It has an app. Again, you can mute it from the app. You can mute the Mackie, and then you can unmute, and you can see the difference and how it's blended. I have the Mackie XLR from the subwoofer. Subwoofer is, as I mentioned before, from the pass-through of the JBL Mark II. So I can mute the sub from the Mark II. Very interesting setup. Let me show you the back, what it looks like. Not too much cabling to deal with. Let's take a look at the cable routing. So I'm starting with the JBL Mark II, and I'm using my through-out, which is 1/4 inch. So I'm using a TRS 1/4 inch cable. And from there, I'm going into the KRK subwoofer. I'm using XLR on the other end, XLR in. And then from the KRK, the subwoofer, I'm using XLR out, and that's going to the Mackie Thump Go into channel 1 or channel 2. So that wraps it up. An incredible system, a little over $2,000 if you add it up. I don't think you can get much better for that kind of money. And of course, this is battery powered. So the Mackie Thump Go just adds that little touch of clarity on the top end that's missing from the JBL Mark II. The JBL Mark II has these smooth mids. It has a nice tight low end. And then you add a small subwoofer, only another 10-inch subwoofer, but a dedicated subwoofer that has clean power like this, KRK. It just makes an incredible system. So I'm going to say this is my best rig of 2021. We'll see what 2022 comes down the pike. I'm sure there'll be all kinds of new gear coming. There'll be more tests. Hope you enjoyed. This is Bill.